Hello and welcome to More Tea Minister. My name is Ian. Today we are looking at a tea within our Shanlinxi regional focus mini-series, and today we're looking at sort of almost a micro terroir. This is from Yangwan, or Sheep's Curve, which refers to the very small area of land around a particular bend in a main road. This is from Eco Cha, and it's an example of their tea club. It's High Mountain Oolong Spring Tea. It's the first of their tea club teas that we've reviewed on the channel. This in particular is batch 115 within their tea club. And just to give a few more details, this was harvested on the final day of the spring harvest, and that slightly greater age to the leaves meant that these were suitable for a slightly higher oxidation. So without wanting to put this tea into the next mini-series from Shanlinxi, this is a High Mountain Oolong tea, but slightly more oxidized. And it's from this very, very specific micro terroir with its own microclimate. So let's now take a look at the packaging and then the tea, and then get on with our reviews. See you in a mo. Here we are looking at the packaging for Eco Cha Tea Club High Mountain Oolong Spring Tea. Now, we know from the website what the particular tea is inside. All I wanted to do was show you this because it's the first time we've sampled, reviewed and looked at the packaging for a tea from the tea club. And all it remains to point out is that the label is the same navy blue colour that we saw earlier on the Shanlinxi Oolong tea. So let's take a look at the leaves inside. Here we are looking at the tea leaves for Eco Cha's High Mountain Oolong Spring Tea, and it's from their Tea Club range. The smell of the leaf is very fruity. So fruity that it's kind of almost shading into something almost sour just because there's so much of that fruity zing to it. Looking at the leaves, there's some prominent stem material. In fact, there's some free-floating stem material there. I was going to say it's relatively uniform, and I suppose it's simply the way the beads are arrayed, but you can see some green edging around them. The stalk material isn't actually that obvious. It's been dried very nicely. The beads, I would say, on average, they're larger, at least 5 mils, but there is some variety, mostly of the fragmentary kind. So I would say somewhere between 4 to 8 mils on average. And other than those green shades, it's a sort of dark forest green colour. So now let's move on to the next part of our video. Welcome to the next part of our video. We'll be doing our Western or Teapot style review of our tea for today, which is Eco Cha's, and it's from their tea club, High Mountain Oolong Spring Tea. The brewing parameters are 3.5 grams of tea in 150 mils of water for 3.5 minutes. This is the first steep, this is the second steep, and they both had 3.5 minutes. So let's begin by taking a look at the colour. I would say they both got a pretty intense colour. The one on the left, I'm not seeing a great deal. I think there's a touch of green, but it's mostly gold yellow. And that's the first steep. The second steep is more obviously yellow, but it's still very intense. And I suppose the green component is a little more obvious. Hopefully you can see it there. As always, I'm going to move the second steep to one side so I can get the aroma of the first steep. Sweet, fruity, and creamy, really intense. Really, really intense. Let's keep that over to one side while I take a sniff of this one. The cream is a lot stronger, but it's still sweet. And they're both very, very smooth. So let's take a sample of the first one. This one's obviously had an extra 3.5 minutes to cool down, so I'm not too worried about this one being overly warm. Ooh. Cream, sweet, really, really smooth and rich. Slightly cereally finish. Now, granted, the leaves weren't fully unfurled, so the flavour drops off a touch, but I'm not getting that kind of overly bitter taste. That tells me there's too much tea. Yeah, just massive cream. Not so much of the freshness, but sweetness and cream coming through there. So let's try our second steeping. By which point the tea is still considerably warmer, but I really want to make sure that it's cooled down. On the cup, I'm getting cream and sweetness and some vegetable notes. Let's try that again. That's lovely. The mouthfeel, the body has increased, I beg your pardon. It's smoother, it's creamier, it's richer. Try not to choke to death. The cereally aspect is stronger. And the cream is what's lingering on the palate. I want to try the first steeping again, just because I didn't take note of the aroma off the cup. Sweet and cream with some fruit. Just a hint. That's really good. So what we're getting from this tea, from Western style, is a masses of cream, lots of sweetness, and I love that cereally note as well. And it's still lingering. It's fantastic, that cream. So let's see what aspects of that flavour profile we can bring out in our Gongfu, which we're going to do just now. Here we are with our Gongfu session to review Eco Char's High Mountain Oolong Spring Tea from their Tea Club. The brewing parameters for our tea are standard by now. 95 degrees centigrade, 3 grams of tea, 50 mils per steeping. I've got my pad to take a note of how long each steeping takes. And I have the stopwatch, so I know how long they are. So let's make a start. Everything is, as always, pre-warmed. I can see there's plenty of stalk material on this. So let's make a start. In fact, I can point out I took a tiny little bit of stalk that was hanging off one of the tea buds, and that was about a quarter of a gram, which may not seem a lot, but it's not bad for a sort of extraneous weight. That's sort of moving around in the water, but not necessarily popping or releasing bubbles. But perhaps that's not a surprise given the sheer size of those tea buds. I suspect we will need our full minute at the very least for our first steeping, but we'll check in at 45. It might be doing amazingly well under the lid. I doubt it, but it might be. I'm sorry if it's dark here. It's because we've actually got sunlight coming through the window, so I think the camera is responding very oddly. Nothing there, and it's giving the impression once again that I'm in a bunker. I'm really not. And there's a minute. I suspect that's going to be a little thin, but I'd rather work up than overdo it. So, oh, that said, there's fruit and some sweetness there already. Colour-wise, a slightly yellow white tea colour, got that silvery yellow, if there is such colour. The cream is very prominent, and that's about it just here, but it is a first steeping. The tea buds are, some of the stalk material is rehydrating in the steam, but everything else is rock solid, which is not a surprise. Plenty of body already. Flavour's dropping off slightly. It's rich and it's creamy, I would say. Oh, as I say, already got some body, which is pretty impressive. But I'm just trying to pin down what the aroma on the cup is. Sweet, creamy, savoury. Plenty of body, wow. Not anywhere near drying, obviously, after a first steeping. The stalk material is massive, and the water has rehydrated. It's pretty much taking up the bottom of the, yeah, still rock solid, everything else, the bottom of the gaiwan. Now that was interesting. That doesn't usually happen. Putting the water onto the beads, you could hear it sizzling as it was rehydrating. That's quite cool. I think I need to get out more if I'm thinking tea sizzling as it's rehydrating is cool, but it is what it is. Let's check in at 45. I'm fidgeting with the pen now. Need to stop fidgeting full stop. Same flavour, aroma profile, sweet and creamy. I think we'll just do another minute because it has hydrated a bit more. Okay. Sweet, creamy, slightly savoury. Colour-wise, oh, the colour's picked up. Definitely a yellowy green now. That's a nice colour. There's fruit forward, mild fruit smell. Well, that's what it is, fruit and cream. Maybe a hint of vegetable in the background. How are the leaves doing? The stalk material is really prominent. I'm just going to take one out. Yeah, if you look there, the leaves, at least in this case, are barely steeped at all, but the stalk material has done a very good job of rehydrating. Some of the tea has unfurled. That's quite a galumphing leaf as well, but that's what you get. Oh, it's 2 leaves. Maybe that's why. Still definitely in need of a 3rd steep. Really intense cream. Slight sweetness, savoury, body. Flavours dropping off slightly, but once again, everything's harmonious, everything's working together. I'm going to let that cool slightly, and I will get on with the next steep, which I suspect I will bring in. I might do the same again and bring that in slightly under a minute, the same as, I don't know why I'm saying the same. I think it's going to need slightly less than a minute. Masses of body, and it's creaminess in the sense of texture rather than outright flavour, or at least it's complementing it, but it definitely needs something to stop the flavour from dropping off so quickly. I can't actually see. For once, the sunlight is so intense I can't see my screen. That's got to be a first. 45. No, nothing distinctive yet. I think we'll bring it in at a minute. I really want to get the best out of the tea without over-steeping it. I notice there's a slight drying quality to the tea now, but only slight. Sweet and cream and savoury again. The leaves are, yeah, the stalk material, you can see just how much stalk material there is. or at least how big it is. Let me put it that way. Yeah, you can see that the leaf is crumpled but unfurled, rehydrated that is. Some of it needs a bit of extra work. It would need longer in the Gaiwan. I might do a fourth steeping actually, just to try and get the best out of that. And put a fair bit more water in, just so the leaves have got room. There we go. That's probably more like 80 or 90 mils. But as I say, I'd like to try and do the best. That's a fabulous colour. More gold. It's sort of yellowy gold. Greeny gold, should I say. That's really nice. Fruit forward, and then followed up by cream. Should have let that cool. Definitely cream forwards. Cream and sweet working together. Both very prominent. Is this going to need a minute? I might even give it 65 just because of the extra water. And let's see how that goes. All right, that's 65 for our fourth steep. Okay. Vegetal forward with sweetened cream there in the background. Yeah, that's done more justice. Yeah, the leaves have had a chance to spread their wings, but you can see they've had much more chance to spread out there. Now, granted, the flavour may have thinned a bit with the extra water, but I find that doesn't tend to happen. I see the colour is much the same there. It's the same greeny gold. And the fruit is there, more prominent with the cream. This is the previous one. Loads of body. So let's see how this goes. That third steeping hasn't had any drying, so I think that was a good time. Let me take some of this out. So maybe we'll be able to see, you might actually be able to see, sometimes you can see quite easily how the oxidation has affected the leaves. Not quite so much on these, but you can see they're pretty big leaves and they're nicely steeped, nicely unfurled. Trying to see if I can find you some of the oxidation signs. Now, I think we'll call that quits. Let's just try our fourth steep. A lot of sweetness there. Still nice and rich. Savoury and cream. The body is about the same as it was in the last one, and that's pretty good for much more water, so it obviously needed that. You could probably push it a few more seconds, but I wouldn't go any further. So what can we say about this tea? It's responded very well to Gongfu. You might want to try it in a slightly bigger Gaiwan. And don't be afraid for a fourth steeping to make it a little more dilute, just to give the leaves more time, more room to steep in. It's a lovely tea. And I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying the body, and I'm enjoying that interplay of cream and sweet. It doesn't have quite the intense body of some of these, but I don't think it needs to. It's all really, really, really harmonious. Yeah, that flavour profile away from sort of brilliant sweetness, as in intense, brilliant in that sense of the word, and somewhere where cream and savoury and mouthfeel and a bit of sweetness all sit. That's really, really good. Once again, if I was asking myself, would I prefer Western or Gongfu. I think they both got their strong points in this case. So I would really, yeah, I'd happily have it either way. This tea is, of course, something of a one-off. It's some of the tea club teas are absolutely limited edition, as in you'll never get this anywhere else. Sometimes it's a way of highlighting what happens throughout a growing year in a particular place for a particular tea. That's really good. Whether that is highlighting this is standard operating procedure or this is something totally out of the blue, it's wonderful stuff. And yeah, I'm really enjoying this set of teas for sub-regions within Shanlinxi. So before I disappear into darkness altogether, let me wish you happy steeping and God bless.